Again, continuing right along to 61, I guess we're at. I was just thinking that whole thing about the string thing and figuring that out reminds me of the time when I was figuring all these stupid things out, and that was a time when I worked for this company. I mentioned before the one that had to do with something with the point of sale system. And see, nowadays you can put number defines pragmas, inside of number defines, and you couldn't do that back then. But there was this one guy, and I mean, he was a nice enough guy and everything. There's nothing wrong with him, but he was. We were always playing practical jokes on this guy, and with the kind of things you can do now, we could have played some really doozies on him. And I just thought, just randomly, thinking about that pragma message, I thought of this one where, like, maybe he'd be working on this geometry header file, right? So this would be something that would get him going for ages. Like he's working on the point or something. Let's see, now I can read it. Now it's also, you can do variable arguments, right? So I've invented an error, and he'd believe it. The poor guy. Here's my error. Printf is currently unavailable. Try put s instead. They'd be like, oh darn, I got to use put s. Wonder why printf's not working today. But he was one of these people that I was always trying to impress the biggies at the top, right? And so that just made him a natural target for all of that silliness that followed. But one of the things was there'd be demonstrations of this store system thing that we're making, the robot I mentioned before, and he'd be in charge of setting up the demonstration for the customer. And the customer being like Walmart or something. And on his system, I had secretly installed a little handler, like an interrupt handler that checks the serial port for keys. So we could remotely enter keys in, and make everything go wrong for him all the time. And anyway. Sorry, back to the memory thing. Yes. It turns out in the debug mode, okay, I can just write it down, but I think I have the code down here somewhere. Here it is, malloc debug. It's very simple. In fact, I wonder if malloc actually just goes there in debug mode. Oh, I better undo that change. I don't want to ruin printf. Where am I now? See, there's a debug malloc and there's a regular malloc. And the debug one takes more arguments. Yeah, this is using the debug version, but this is only taking one argument in. This is the default, right? Now, I don't know what the NH part is about, but just this part you can call. And that one doesn't, yeah, that one only takes this one only takes 4 arguments, not 5. And it's the size of the block, and then the type of block, normal block. Now all this type thing is, I don't know why it's not showing you the arguments. Well, hang on, before that, let's just get this compiled so I can see the argument list. Now it would be underscore. That'll do it. Okay. Size, the size of the block you want allocated. A type. Now this normal block is predefined. Okay, there are, I guess, only these possibilities. I don't know why you can't put anything, but I guess there are only 5. Client block. Now they're all maybe they're being allocated to different heaps. Probably are, in fact. And this is just the normal spot. Now, as you saw from some of those other videos, normal is sort of a random thing. And then the other 2 parameters were a string, which is file name. Okay, so typically we use the number defined, the predefined thing, and this is a line number. Same as the. Oops. Now, so this is even easier than the other thing. You don't have to try and turn this into a string. This takes a number, thank God. Now, the other thing that I've done, as you've probably seen 1,000 times, in the startup here, I call wrong function. Yes, set this leak report on. Now, first, if I didn't have this, well, I'll show you as well that there are 2 ways to locate the source of a memory leak, and this is preferred, obviously, because when I run this, then the line where the allocation occurred appears in that magic format. Right? I could put this in any file. The geometry thing. Let's say if I if I shrink a rectangle, I've accidentally made a mistake there. This rect stuff was from long ago. We were doing points or rectangles as an example of an object, and so I just put that into a file. Left top, right bottom. And I never went over the fact that I did that. But if you've downloaded the code from that special area, then you'll see it. Okay, now one thing I could do, if you recall, was expand by X and Y. Another thing I can do, by the way, is stream it like a lot of those other objects into a string. It shows me it in this format. Now if I run this, I won't get any memory. right? But if I shrink it, because I put that bad code in there, you're going to get a memory leak. Where did I thought I put it in a different string. No, I did. It's this string. I put it in, where else did I put it? This string. Shrink by just a single number. I should make that a percent, really. Shrink by 20% or something would be more useful. There, memory leak, and I press F4 and it brings me there. Now, the only problem with that is you got to type malloc debug everywhere where you used to have malloc. And what about realloc and things like that? Well, to take care of malloc, you can just, and what I've always had is this number defined. Right. I never used to use realloc a lot, so anywhere in the code where there was a malloc, right, it would change that into this, and that's fine. So that takes care of malloc, and it ends up in the debug report. Okay, now I need to tell you about one more thing. I hope well, just undo checkout. Nope, it's nothing in there. Undo. I want to tell you about this thing called the new operator. Or just operators in general. There's several ways, by the way, to fix this. I don't know if there's I can't think of any way to turn this statement into an L value automatically, you know. I have a template that turns it into an L value. This works, and any assignment type operator would turn it into an L value. I could make maybe a function called .L or something. That's true, eh? Because really all I'm doing here is calling a function .equal, right? Operator equal. And it doesn't even have to have any value here. Missing argument, that's true. I still need, I meant to put this in brackets. Not double equal, equal. Yeah. But if I made a function called, you know, just .L value or something, it's still more, it's less typing, right? If it was just like, if I could just do it in 2 steps. This is something, by the way, that you should always make sure of. For instance, this CSZ, okay, it's not perfect because contains comes up first, but it used to be clear that came up first, and that means you've got to type at least two or 3 letters, I think, because then the O comes up or something. The thing is, what you want, is the thing that this person's going to be using most often should be the first thing that comes up with that letter. maybe I should change this to a capital C, and that would fix it. Probably I should. In fact, we'll do that later. I know that seems like a silly thing, Who cares? I got to type an extra letter, but you'd be amazed how much time is saved by the most frequent thing coming up first in the list. Now, where was I? Operator new. Now, an operator, any operator, including operator new, is just a function, okay? Now, the operator, string here. I think I define some operators down here, just on their own. See, this is just a function I've defined that's an operator plus, right? The thing that's the only thing that's different about operators is the way you place the arguments. Like an operator plus has one argument on the left-hand side of the function name, which is plus, and another argument on the right-hand side of the function name, and no brackets, right? That just happens to be the interface to the plus function. A strange function, but that's all it is, really. Similarly with these streamy things and equals and whatnot, and with operator new. However, operator new has a secret argument. Like if I say int star equals given name new int, right? Well, that's going to do something like malloc. Now, I'm going to step into it and see. Well, here it is just about to call malloc, right? Now, this operator takes a size argument, and the size here that's been passed in is 4. But I haven't given 4. There's no 4 here, right? So it's got a secret size of hidden argument. It's like when you call a member function of a class, there's a secret argument that's passed that you don't see. It's hidden. If I wanted to override this function, right? Or not override it. Let's say I just want to make an operator called operator new. No problem. The only restriction is if you want it to be called new, it's got to return a void star and take a size t first. So operator new size type types, and I don't know. We'll say that it takes LP string, maybe a rectangle, doesn't matter. And it's just got to return a void star. And it has to be the same size as supplied. Okay, now there shouldn't be any complaints about this. It's just a new function. Now what? Oh, I'm invoking my special malloc. N size. Where have I said n size? N bytes. Oh, yeah, yeah. Now this new for the int is not. It's not going to do that because, as you know, with operator overloading, this has a different function name, so this will go correctly there. But if I supply those extra arguments, a string, and a rectangle, well, now I've given it the correct named function. It should go to this new. There, go there, and it does. See, and with the right size. So the size is filled in automatically, and the rest is whatever you want to make up, whatever you think might be appropriate, right? And I think you can probably guess what would be a good thing to pass into new, right? Because as it is, new int, the default version, an unfreed nude thing gives us a memory leak, but we don't have file line. We'd like to use this debug malloc for our news, right? So instead of overriding this operator, which I think it's possible to do that, but it would still be useless because it needs to be a macro in order to extract the file in line. So all we got to do, I've actually written it down here already. Let's make up a new function, and inline required if we want to put it in a header file. Takes a size t. So here's the actual implementation one. It takes 4 arguments, size, and one of those, remember the types. We're using normal block. File name, line number. And then there's this other one that defaults to normal block. And then a number defined, which changes any writing of the letters N-E-W together results in a call to this function, which in turn calls this function. You'll notice that there's a scoping. These are scoping things. Double colons are things that determine scope, like within rect, these are scoped, right? This is within the namespace of scope, we'll say. Okay, everything here has an implicit rect colon in front of it. That these things are named. When there's nothing, when there's 2 colons and nothing on the left, that's called the global namespace. So this is a global namespace new. It's possible, and what many people do, define a new operator for a specific class. So I could define an operator new for rect, just as I can define any other function for rect. And then when I new things inside this namespace, it will use the rect version of new. Anyway, so now with those defined and with the malloc defined, I pretty much caught them all. Okay, here's my memory leak. Now, lastly, let me see. Okay, lastly, it turns out you don't need this one. I found out just today, in fact, that that one's built in. already. You only need this one, which was here. You can tell it was here. What side it was on, I don't know. It should be delimited somehow. Not only for malloc, but for all of the other allocation functions, there's a macro defined in this file that does exactly the same thing. I don't know where it is, but I know it's in here somewhere. And the reason I know that is because of all these push and pop macros, which is what you have to do when you run into a name collision with, especially with something like new. You've got to undefine it. And that's another thing that I don't know if every compiler has. Where'd it go? Oh, where'd my comment go? That's what I want. I lost my comment. The comment says, oh yeah, no, the comment says that if you run into a name collision, especially with things like the standard template libraries, list and math and all those things, which have their own versions of new, you need to undefine. You have to undefine this. Now the question is, how do you get your definition back after you've undefined it? And then you want it back for your code. Well, there's a way to do that, and it's push macro and pop macro, which push and pop macros off the preprocessor's stack, not the compiler stack, but the preprocessor. Okay, so that's the introduction to the memory section, and I have a lot more to say about this, and I'm not sure what I'm going to name this video because I didn't get to the topic I wanted to get to yet. So anyway, I'll see you next time.